My name's Tyler. I grew up in Michigan, worked in HVAC repair most of my life, and married my high school sweetheart Erica when I was 22. We had history, shared playlists, inside jokes, and a worn-down couch that had seen more movie nights and late-night arguments than either of us liked to admit. Seemed like a fairy tale at first. But life doesn't care about fairy tales. Something had shifted between us. I couldn't say when exactly, but it started small, like a tiny crack in a basement pipe. Subtle at first. Then it leaked all over my damn life. She used to greet me when I came home. She used to smile. Now her lips curled halfway like she was doing it out of habit. Not feeling. "Hey," she'd say, without even looking up from her phone. "Hey, babe," I'd reply, forcing cheer into my voice. She was always typing something. Screen dimmed low. I never asked, not right away. I was raised to trust first. But then came the nights she didn't come home on time. She'd say she had to stay late at the hospital. "She's a nurse, you see," said a patient coded. Said a staff meeting ran over. She always had a reason. Always so believable. But you can feel when someone is slipping through your fingers. The bed felt colder even when she was lying next to me. I tried to make things better. Bought her flowers randomly on a Tuesday. Tried booking a weekend cabin just for the two of us. She said she couldn't get the time off. The same Erica who used to skip shifts just to come watch me play in my pathetic weekend softball league. One night I got bold. I poured 2 glasses of wine and sat beside her on the couch. The TV was on mute, some Netflix drama playing with actors we didn't know. "Erica," I started. My throat was already dry. "Are we okay?" She looked startled, like I caught her mid-sin. "What kind of question is that?" she asked. Her eyes flicked away. "I don't know," I said. "Just feels like we've been off lately." She touched my hand softly, but briefly. "Things are just stressful. You know how work is." But I didn't know. Not anymore. I didn't even know her. That night I reached out to touch her in bed. Just a hand to her hip. She turned slightly, enough that I could kiss her shoulder. It had been weeks, maybe months. We made love that night, but it wasn't like before. She didn't look at me once. She closed her eyes like she was thinking about something else, or someone else. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. I hated myself for it, but I had to know. It was locked, fingerprint only. She never used to lock it. A week later, I came home early from a canceled job. Her car was in the driveway. I figured maybe she called in sick. But the bedroom door was shut, and there were voices. My feet went numb. I pressed my ear against the door and heard her laugh. That laugh. The one I hadn't heard in months. I pushed the door open, slow. The bed was made. No one in sight. She stood there, fully dressed, phone in hand, pacing. "Tyler?" she said, startled. "Why are you home? Job got canceled." Her phone lit up. She fumbled to turn the screen away. I didn't push it. Not then. But later that night, while she slept, I unlocked her phone with her finger. The texts were all there. "Last night was insane. You're like a drug. I can't stop thinking about you." From someone named Adrian. I scrolled up. The name was saved with a little flame emoji. Then I saw the pictures. One of them was taken in a hospital supply closet. Her scrubs half off, his stethoscope around his neck. Her face was flushed, smiling, wild-eyed. That's when I knew. I set the phone down, walked to the bathroom, and stared at myself in the mirror. It wasn't just a one-time thing. I slept next to a stranger who had fallen in love with someone else. And not just someone, a doctor. A goddamn doctor who looked like the lead singer from an old British heavy metal band she used to be obsessed with in college. She had posters of that guy once. Said he had wolf eyes, and a voice that could make stone melt. Apparently, this guy reminded her of him. And she decided to try something new. That's what she texted him one night. It was supposed to be once. Something new. But I couldn't stop. I didn't confront her yet. No, I needed more. I followed her to work a few days later. Parked down the street watching the staff entrance. At 8:06 a.m. He showed up. Tall, chiseled, leather jacket slung over his shoulder like he walked out of a rock video. At 8:11 a.m. She pulled up. They kissed in the parking lot. A full kiss, not even hidden. Like they didn't care. That image burned into me. Like a bullet you can't dig out. That night she came home late. Again. Smelled faintly of his cologne. I knew it now, patchouli and smoke. "You okay?" she asked, noticing me in the kitchen. Lights off. Yeah, I said quietly. Just thinking. She looked nervous. About what? I looked at her long and hard. About how much you've changed. She didn't say anything, just walked past me into the bedroom. The silence between us was no longer tension. It was a wall, and I was planning to tear it down. Erica didn't notice that I stopped kissing her goodnight. She didn't notice that I'd begun sleeping with one leg out of the blanket, the way I used to when I was angry as a kid. And she sure didn't notice when I sat in the dark, night after night, phone in hand, scrolling back through their messages like a man tracing his own autopsy. Adrian. I'd memorized his name, his texts, the way he flirted with her like they were in some tragic French movie. Intense, poetic, shameless. She fed off it. You make me feel alive again. He doesn't get you like I do. I want you. Always. They'd met in the hospital break room. She dropped her coffee. He picked it up and said something about Destiny and the Smiths. That was her favorite band. Of course it was. I didn't plan for this, she wrote. But he's different. Tyler feels heavy. Heavy. That was me now. A burden. The man she promised forever to, reduced to a weight she no longer wanted to carry. I didn't sleep that night. The moon carved shadows across our bedroom wall while her breathing beside me remained slow and peaceful. Like she didn't just kill me without touching me. The next day, I left work early and drove out to the lake where we used to go every 4th of July. I sat on the hood of my truck and watched the water. I played the old playlist she made for me on our 2nd anniversary. Every song now felt like a lie, especially Wasting Love by Iron Maiden. I remember her once saying, "This song is about people like us. People like us. People like me, apparently." That night, when she walked in, I didn't ask where she'd been. I just stared at her. She hesitated. "What?" she asked, throwing her bag down. "How was work?" I asked. She blinked, surprised I was talking. "Long," she said. "Why? You seem radiant," I said bitterly. She froze. "Excuse me, do I need to spell it out?" She shifted her weight. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Erica." My voice was a whisper, but it sliced through the air like glass. She finally broke 2 nights later. It was late. She'd just gotten out of the shower. Her hair was wet, loose down her back. She used to let me brush it. Not anymore. "Tyler," she said, voice low, "we need to talk. I haven't been honest with you." I stared at the TV. Baseball reruns. I muted it. She sat beside me, but far enough to make her guilt visible. "I made a mistake," she said. "It started small. He made me feel like someone saw me again. Not just as your wife. Or a nurse. But as a woman." I didn't look at her. Couldn't. I thought it would just be one time. He asked me and I said yes. I was curious. I was stupid. "Why him?" I said. My voice was cracked gravel. She sniffled. "He looks like the guy from that band. You know which one? Iron Maiden?" I laughed bitterly. "Of course." She bit her lip. "It wasn't about him. Not really. It was about how he made me feel." "And me?" I asked. "How do I make you feel?" She paused too long. That silence was my answer. We didn't speak for days. Not really. Just coexisted in a house that felt too big now, each room echoing betrayal. She started sleeping on the couch. Said it was for space. One night I went to her. She was half asleep, curled under the old throw blanket. "Do you love him?" I asked. She blinked in the dark. "I don't know." The truth sat between us, raw and unforgiving. The next morning I called in sick. I needed to see this man for myself. I went to the hospital. Asked for Dr. Adrian Blake. The receptionist said he was on his lunch break. I waited in my truck, parked across the lot. At 12:42 p.m. he came out, laughing with another doctor. Then he walked around the corner, and there she was. Erica. She rushed to him, hugged him like I didn't exist. And then they kissed. Right there. Right outside the building. It wasn't lust. It wasn't even a secret anymore. It was love. My heart didn't just break. Collapsed, quietly, like a building you didn't know was on fire. That night, when she came home, I was waiting at the kitchen table. Her eyes widened. "You took the day off?" "I saw you," I said. She froze. "In the parking lot. With him." The color drained from her face. "It's not what you think," she said softly. "Don't insult me." She sank into the chair across from me. "I didn't mean to fall for him," she whispered. "But you did." I said. And you're still doing it. She started crying. I hate myself, she sobbed. I swear to God, Tyler. I hate myself every time I leave his place and come home to you. I closed my eyes. That was the worst part. She still came home. Later that night, I heard her crying in the shower. I should have felt sorry for her. But I couldn't, because I was done being the good man. Done being the safe place she could return to after every reckless night. Something dark began to grow in me. Slow, steady, a different kind of heat. And I knew I wasn't going to let this end like a sad song. I was going to write my own ending. One she'd never forget. Erica's perspective would have made it easier to understand. But all I had were scraps. Snippets of messages. Moments she whispered in her sleep when she thought I couldn't hear her. Fragments I replayed 1,000 times, until I started imagining how it must have happened. How she crossed that invisible line and never looked back. It started in a hallway. White walls. Vending machines humming. A coffee stain on her scrub pants. She dropped her pen. He picked it up. Their fingers touched. And something lit between them. A flicker, like the strike of a match in a dark room. He was charming with that arrogant British coolness. Hair pushed back. A jawline that belonged in magazines. And a voice like velvet dragged over steel. Is that the number of the beast? He asked, pointing to her keychain. The tiny guitar pick she'd kept from the Iron Maiden concert we saw 10 years ago. She smiled without thinking. You know it. I was raised on it, he said, grinning. My dad used to say it's better than therapy. That was the moment. The laugh. The spark. The mistake. The first time was in the on-call room on a Wednesday. Rain against the windows. Fluorescent lights buzzing above their heads. He leaned in slow. I don't usually do this. She stopped him. I'm married, she whispered, voice shaking. I know, he said. You looked at me like you wanted me anyway. Her lips trembled. And then she kissed him. It was rough, hungry, like she'd been starving and didn't know until that moment. She felt guilt. A sharp stab in her ribs. But it vanished under his hands. He pulled her close, pressing her into the stiff mattress. Her scrub top peeled off. His mouth brushed her collarbone. You're shaking, he whispered. I shouldn't be doing this, she said. But you are. She told him her husband used to touch her like this. Back when they still slow danced in the kitchen. Before the silence swallowed everything. With Adrian there was noise again. Heat. Chaos. He didn't ask questions. He didn't tiptoe. He devoured. And Erica, my Erica, let him. She let herself be seen again. Her moans muffled into his shoulder. Her fingernails dug into his back. And when he moved inside her, something broke loose. A sob, a sigh, a part of her that had been buried for years. He whispered in her ear. You like being someone else's dirty little secret? She nodded. I love that you belong to another man, he growled. And yet you're here, with me. The twisted thrill of it, the rebellion, the risk, lit something carnal in both of them. And when it ended, and she lay against his chest, guilt returned. But not strong enough to keep her away. She said it would be one time. But one time turned into Friday nights, Sunday mornings, and lunch breaks in the back of his car. She told herself it was just physical. But then she started comparing. He touched her like she was precious and filthy. Like a prize. Like a weapon. I didn't. She used to come home with that afterglow still clinging to her skin, trying to hide it behind cheap perfume and long showers. Sometimes she kissed me on the cheek, out of habit. And all I could think about was where her lips had been an hour ago. One night, I found a journal in her sock drawer. She never locked it. Maybe she wanted to be caught. Inside were pages of ink-stained confessions. I feel alive with him. It's wrong. But when he says my name, I forget it's wrong. I love how it feels to be desired like that again. Tyler doesn't look at me the same anymore. I think part of me resents him for letting me drift away. That one hurt the most. Like I had given her permission to betray me. And him? Adrian loved it. The thrill. The conquest. The victory of taking another man's wife. He told her once, it's not just sex. It's poetry. Because you'll go home to him tonight and dream about me. She laughed. Because it was true. She told him things I hadn't heard in years. She showed him parts of her I thought only I knew. And in their tangled mess of sheets and stolen time, they made something I couldn't compete with. Not just passion, but power. I watched them once, from outside a cheap hotel off the highway. I followed her there. She told me she was working late again. I parked across the street, Engine off. Her car pulled in. 5 minutes later, his followed. I saw her run into his arms in the rain. Like it was a romance movie. Like I never existed. She came home soaked. I asked her if she needed a towel. She said, "No, I'm good," smiling softly, her skin still pink from his touch. And that night, while she curled up on our couch watching reality TV like everything was fine, I sat at the kitchen table. 1,000 thoughts running through my head. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was planning something. Something careful. Something final. I used to think the worst kind of pain was finding out. Turns out, living with it, eating dinner across from it, folding its laundry, hearing it laugh while texting someone else, is far worse. Erica didn't know I had her journal. She didn't know I'd printed the photos from her phone and kept them locked in a shoebox under the floorboards in the garage, between my old baseball mitt and a rusted toolbox. She didn't know that every time she kissed me goodbye, I saw his hands on her hips. Every time she smiled, I saw her smile from the hotel parking lot. Genuine, radiant, untouchable. That smile wasn't mine anymore. I became an expert at pretending. Pretending I didn't notice how she dressed up more for staff meetings. Pretending I didn't hear her giggle through closed doors while on the phone with a nurse from work. Pretending her moans in the shower were only from warm water and not the memory of him. But while she played house with me, I started playing a different game. A long one. I booked a session with a private investigator. His office smelled like stale coffee and burnt cigarettes. Name was Carl. Thick mustache. Thicker file folders. "Cheating wife," he said bluntly. I nodded. "I need proof. All of it." He raised an eyebrow. "Divorce court." I looked him straight in the eye. "Not exactly." Erica's lies began unraveling fast. Carl followed her 3 times in 1 week. Snapped clear photos of her entering Adrian's condo with 2 coffees and leaving hours later with her hair tousled and lips swollen. Once, she wore the same dress she wore on our anniversary. That one stung. Another time, they went to a rock bar outside town. He sent me a picture of them kissing in a corner booth under red lights, her legs over his lap like they were teenagers, her hand on his chest, eyes closed. That look. I hadn't seen it in years. She wasn't just cheating. She was in love. One night, I tried something I hadn't in months. We were in bed. She was reading a book she'd already read 3 times. Something safe, predictable. Like me. I reached over and touched her hip. Slid my hand up her waist, slow. She didn't move. I leaned in, kissed her shoulder. "I miss you," I said. She hesitated, then turned toward me, set the book down. Her lips met mine, reluctant at first. But as I kissed her deeper, she let go. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, she wanted this again. We made love that night, slow and quiet. Her body was there. But her mind? Her soul? I could feel it wasn't with me. Afterward, she turned away and whispered, "Thank you," like I was doing her a favor. Like I wasn't her husband. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My hands still smelled like her shampoo. But all I could picture was him. Holding her. Filling her. Hearing her say his name like she used to say mine. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Because revenge requires silence. And I was getting close. The next morning, I asked her, "How's work been lately?" She looked up from her cereal, eyes narrowing slightly. "Fine. You seem tired," I said. She laughed lightly. "Long shifts." I smiled. "Maybe we should get away for a weekend. Just us." She blinked. "What?" "A cabin. Like the one we used to go to. I already checked the dates." She paused. I'd have to check my schedule." "Of course," I said, sipping my coffee. "But it'd be good for us. Don't you think?" She nodded, but slowly. "Yeah, sure." She didn't know I'd already booked it. Didn't know I had something planned that would finally, truly, make her feel the way I'd been feeling for months. That night, after she went to sleep, I opened her laptop. She'd forgotten to log out. Her email was still open. I clicked on the most recent message. From Adrian. Subject: "Can't stop thinking about you. That cabin idea you told me about sounds perfect. I want to wake up with you somewhere far away. Just us. No guilt. No secrets. I'll clear my weekend." I stared at the screen. My jaw clenched. She was going to take him. To my cabin. Our place. The one with the fireplace I built by hand. The one where I carved her initials into the oak railing the night I proposed. Now it was going to be their playground. Unless I changed the story. I printed the email. Put it in the shoebox with everything else, photos, messages, journal pages. I was collecting more than evidence. I was collecting fuel. Erica came home later than usual the next 2 nights. Claimed double shifts. I didn't even ask. I made dinner, watched movies, sat beside her on the couch like we were still in love. She laughed at one of the comedies, leaned her head on my shoulder. For a moment I let her, because soon she'd realize what a performance that laugh really was, and what happens when the final curtain falls. 2 weeks. That's how long I waited. 2 weeks of pretending to be clueless. 2 weeks of watching her pack her bags like she was going away with me, while I knew she'd never planned to. She was quiet the morning she left. Kissed me on the cheek. Said she was going to a nurse conference out of town. Left a duffel by the door. Light packing. Be safe, I told her, holding the door open. She smiled. I will. I watched her drive off. 15 minutes later, I grabbed my keys, slid the shoebox of evidence into the back seat, and followed. I didn't tail her directly. I knew where she was going. I knew every turn, every pine tree along the highway. I had built that cabin with my father's help. Secluded. No signal. One road in, one road out. The perfect place for a weekend of lies. The perfect place to end them. I parked a few 100 yards out, tucked into the woods. Waited until dusk. Smoke curled from the chimney. The lights were on. My heart thudded as I walked the trail up to the back of the cabin, boots crunching softly through pine needles. I stood outside for a moment, listening. I heard her laugh. Not the fake one she gave me at dinner. The real one. Followed by his voice, deep and smooth. His accent like a blade dipped in honey. Then silence. Then moaning. I felt it in my teeth. Like the sound of a door slamming in your soul. Through the frosted side window I saw them. He had her up against the wooden beam of the living room. Her shirt was gone. His hands were on her waist, sliding down. She moaned into his mouth. He whispered something in her ear. She laughed breathlessly and said, "You make me feel wild here, like I belong to you." I gripped the windowsill. The rage was there, burning alive. But I didn't storm in. No, I walked around to the front, quietly unlocked the door, still remembered the old key code, and waited. 30 minutes later, they stumbled out of the bedroom, sweaty and drunk on lust. She wore only his button-down. He held 2 glasses of red wine. "God, you're incredible," he said. "I could do this forever." She laughed. "You'll get bored of me." "Never." They sat on the couch. She curled into him. "Does your husband suspect anything?" he asked. She hesitated. "I think he knows," she whispered. "But he's too passive to do anything. That's the problem. Tyler's safe, predictable. You're the opposite." And that's when I walked in. Her scream hit first. She scrambled off the couch, knocking the wine to the floor. "Tyler!" Adrian jumped up, fists slightly raised, but unsure. I didn't flinch. I closed the door behind me, set the shoebox gently on the table. No words, just silence. "What are you? How did you?" Erica stammered, clutching the shirt to her chest. Adrian stepped forward. "Look, man, this isn't what it looks like." "Don't," I said, quiet, firm. I opened the box, pulled out the journal. Read aloud. I didn't mean to love him, but once I tasted him I couldn't stop. Erica turned pale. I dropped a photo on the table. Them, kissing in the hospital parking lot. Another one, her legs wrapped around him at the hotel door. Then the email, printed in bold. "I want to wake up with you somewhere far away. Just us. No guilt. No secrets." Erica's lip trembled. Adrian stared at the evidence. I locked eyes with him. "How's it feel? Sleeping with another man's wife under his own roof?" He shrugged, cocky. "Feels good, honestly." Of course he did. Because he never had to deal with the fallout. The damage. The waking up alone while someone else held what used to be yours. Erica finally spoke. "I never meant for this to happen," she whispered. "You have to believe me." I turned to her. "I did believe you. Every time you said you loved me. Every night you came home and let me hold you after sleeping with him." Tears welled in her eyes. "It wasn't all a lie," she said. "But enough of it was," I replied. She reached for me. "Tyler, I'm sorry." I stepped back. "Don't." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know how to stop. He made me feel like I wasn't invisible." "And I made you feel safe," I said. "But you burned the house down anyway." Adrian, unbothered, walked to the door. "This feels personal. I'll wait outside." But I stopped him. "No, stay." He paused. "You deserve to hear what I'm about to say." Erica looked confused. "What are you?" "I'm not yelling. I'm not breaking anything. I'm just done." She blinked. "What?" I pulled the ring off my finger. "I'm done being your second choice. Your safety net. Your lie." I dropped the ring in her palm. She gasped, covering her mouth. "I'll have papers served next week." And then I walked to the door, opened it, looked at Adrian one last time. "You know," I said calmly, "she told me once that you were just a fantasy, a phase, someone to remind her she was still alive." He frowned. "She said she hated herself after every time." His jaw tightened. I stepped outside, left the cabin behind, let them figure out what to do with the ashes. But as I walked down the trail, wind biting my face, I realized something. This wasn't the end. It was only the middle. Because sometimes, the worst revenge isn't destroying someone, it's showing them how easily you let them go. The cabin stood silent after I left, but I knew what I'd done. I didn't scream. I didn't hit him. I didn't beg her to stay. And somehow that was worse for her. Because when someone finally stops fighting for you, it's not because they don't care. It's because they finally see you. Erica didn't come home that night. I didn't expect her to. The house was still, like it had been emptied of oxygen. Her toothbrush was still in the bathroom. Her favorite mug still drying by the sink. But it all felt like props from a stage play we stopped performing long ago. I poured myself a glass of bourbon, sat on the porch and listened to nothing. And that nothing felt better than her lies ever did. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was poisonous. "What the hell was that?" Adrian asked, pacing shirtless in front of the fireplace. Erica sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the ring Tyler had dropped into her hand like it burned her. "I didn't know he'd show up," she whispered. "Yeah? Then why'd you tell him about this place?" "I didn't. He must have found something. I don't know. He's not stupid." Adrian scoffed. "He's a coward. He should have punched me, screamed, something." But Erica wasn't listening. Her head was swimming with everything Tyler had said. "You burned the house down anyway. I'm done being your second choice." The words clung to her skin more than Adrian's hands ever had. Later that night, Adrian tried to touch her again, pull her close, kiss her neck. She pulled away. "What's wrong?" "I don't know," she said. "I feel sick." "You're not still in love with him, are you?" She looked up, startled. "I don't know what I feel." Adrian scoffed. "Great, just great." He stood and lit a cigarette by the open window. "You should have told him months ago," he muttered. Erica stared at the floor. "I thought he'd never find out." The next day, she drove back to town alone. Didn't say goodbye to Adrian. Didn't answer his texts. Something had shifted in her, like a mirror cracked from the inside. She walked into our house, no, my house now, and just stood in the doorway. Everything was exactly as she left it. Except me. I wasn't there. There was a note on the table. "Don't call. You need space. I need air." She sat down and cried. Not because she missed me, but because she didn't even know who she was without someone else wanting her. I didn't return for 3 days. I slept at my brother's place. Told him I needed time. He didn't ask questions. When I came back, she was gone. No note. No suitcase. Just a faint smell of her shampoo in the bedroom we used to share. I stood in the doorway and exhaled. And for the first time in months, I felt something unexpected. Freedom. But that feeling didn't last long. Because as I tried to rebuild my days, going back to work, eating alone, trying to find the rhythm of silence, I began to notice something strange. Adrian wasn't showing up to the hospital anymore. I drove past once or twice, curiosity maybe. His car wasn't there. I asked a nurse at the gas station, someone who used to know Erica. "Dr. Blake," she said. "He left suddenly. No one knows where he went." Kinda weird, right? Weird didn't begin to cover it. Then came the late-night call. "Erica." I let it ring 5 times. Then answered. "Tyler," she said, her voice shaking. "I need to talk." "Now you want to talk?" "I'm not asking to come back," she said quickly. "I just need to see you. One time." I sighed. "Why?" "Because something's wrong." Her voice cracked. "With me. With everything. I think Adrian's following me." I sat up straight. "What do you mean?" "He sent me flowers yesterday. No note. Then today someone was parked outside my work. Same car he used to drive. Could have been anyone. It wasn't. Silence. Tyler. He's not who I thought he was. I almost laughed. Neither are you. She didn't respond. Then she whispered, please, just coffee, just 20 minutes. I hesitated. Then I said, tomorrow, 1 hour, at the Lantern Cafe, public place. She breathed relief. Okay. And then she hung up. As I sat there in the dark, something cold crept up my spine. Not because I pitied her. Not because I wanted her back. But because I knew Adrian. I'd watched his type my whole life. Men who take what they want and walk away without consequence. But what if this time he couldn't walk away? What if she wasn't the only one unraveling? What if the story wasn't over? The Lantern Cafe was quiet that morning. Rain tapping on the windows, the smell of burnt espresso lingering in the air. I got there early, picked the booth by the back, where I could see both the door and the parking lot. 10 minutes later, Erica walked in, soaked, eyes darting. She looked smaller, not just from the rain but from guilt, from weight, from something else. She saw me and came over, clutching her bag like a lifeline. I didn't stand. She slid into the booth, folded her hands on the table. Thanks for coming. Didn't say I was doing this for you, I said. You said he's following you. She nodded, eyes red-rimmed. I know it sounds paranoid, but I swear he's been watching me. I see the same black SUV every night outside my building. I got a text yesterday that just said, still thinking about you. No number. Could have been anyone, I said flatly. She looked at me, hurt. Tyler, I'm serious. This isn't just some jealous ex thing. He's not right in the head. And you figured this out after you destroyed your marriage to be with him? She flinched. I sipped my coffee, bitter cold. I don't want anything from you, she said softly. I don't know who else to call. Friends. She gave a weak laugh. Turns out sleeping with your husband's replacement makes you less popular. I leaned forward. You made your choice. Now you're living in it. But he's not leaving me alone. Then go to the cops. They won't do anything without proof. Then record him. She hesitated. I'm scared, she whispered. And I think he's mad I left. Like really mad. I stared at her. She was unraveling. Mascara smudged. Hands shaking. A far cry from the woman who once stood in the mirror, applying lipstick for another man while I sat in the living room folding our laundry. I don't trust him, she added. And I think he followed me here. That got my attention. I glanced out the window. Nothing yet. I parked behind the hardware store, she said. Just in case. In case what? I asked. He shows up and what? Drags you out screaming? She didn't answer, but the fear in her eyes was real. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt something I didn't expect. Pity. When we left the cafe, I offered to walk her to her car. She hesitated. Please, she said. We crossed the wet street. The rain had slowed but left the pavement slick and gleaming like black glass. She pointed to the back lot. That's when I saw it. A black SUV, parked half a block down. Engine running. Is that him? I asked. I think so, she said. I watched the figure behind the wheel. Couldn't see his face. The moment we stepped into view, the SUV peeled away. Fast. Too fast for an innocent coincidence. Erica let out a shaky breath. See? She whispered. I'm not crazy. Never said you were, I replied. But in truth, I wasn't sure anymore. That night I didn't sleep. Not because of her, but because of him. Adrian Blake. The charming, seductive doctor, who smiled like he had all the answers. Now suddenly gone. No forwarding address. No hospital shift. Not even an active license. Carl, my PI, texted me around midnight. You were right. Blake's not who he says he is. Real name, Adrian Whitmore. Suspended in 2 other states. Couple of harassment allegations. Got quieted down. Moved around a lot. I stared at the message. This guy's slick. But he's dangerous. Keep an eye out. The next morning I checked my door camera. 2:17 a.m. Someone had stood on my porch. Not knocking. Just standing. The footage showed a shadowed figure. Hoodie up. Leaning toward the peephole. Then walking off. I replayed it 6 times. It wasn't clear. But it wasn't random. By the 3rd day, Erica was calling me every few hours. Can I stay at your place for a few nights? No. Please. Just until I figure something out. You already figured everything out when you left me for him. She cried quietly on the line. I didn't know he'd become like this. I didn't know he'd. I waited. Start threatening me. My blood ran cold. You didn't tell me that. I found a note on my windshield, she said. It just said, if I can't have you, no one can. That night, I drove by her apartment, parked across the street, just in case. I saw her lights go out around midnight. I saw movement in the alleyway 10 minutes later. A man, hooded, slim build. He walked toward her car. I stepped out of mine quietly. He crouched by her front tire. Knife. Before I could speak, he looked up, saw me, then ran. I chased him, but he was fast. Disappeared down the block. By the time I got back, he was gone. But the tire had a deep slash. He wasn't trying to kill her. Not yet. He was trying to trap her. I left her a voicemail. Call the cops. Now. And tell them everything. She didn't respond until morning. I told them, she said. They're investigating. But her voice was flat. Defeated. Tyler, she added quietly. I think I made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't answer. Because some mistakes come back with flowers. Others come back with knives. And this one wasn't finished yet. It had been 5 days since the first note. 3 since the tire slash. And less than 24 hours since I chased a man with a knife into the night. His face stayed with me, blurred, shadowed, but burned into my mind like a brand I couldn't scrub off. I wasn't sleeping anymore. Not really. I started keeping a baseball bat by the front door. Bought a second camera for the backyard. Asked Carl to dig deeper, really deeper, into Adrian's past. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a love affair gone wrong anymore. This was becoming something else. Erica hadn't been to work in 3 days. She texted me on the 6th day. Please, Tyler. I can't be alone anymore. He knows where I sleep. I hear footsteps outside every night. I read her messages while standing in the kitchen, lights off, watching rain streak down the window. I should have ignored her. I should have told her she made this bed and now she had to lie in it. But I couldn't, because the sound of her voice, shaking, stripped, no longer proud or cruel, reminded me of someone I used to know. Not the woman who kissed another man in a hospital closet, but the girl I once slow danced with in a garage while the radio played an old Aerosmith song. I picked her up that night. She looked like a ghost of herself. Hood pulled tight, eyes darting, arms crossed like she was freezing even though it was 75 degrees. She slid into my truck and whispered, "Thank you." "Don't," I said. We didn't speak again until we got to my place. She sat on the couch while I checked the windows, doors, cameras twice. She watched me like she wanted to ask something, but didn't. I made her tea. She didn't drink it. Instead, she said, "You were right about him." I raised an eyebrow. "That he's a liar?" She shook her head. "That he doesn't stop when he gets what he wants. He escalates." She held out her phone and showed me a picture. It was a selfie of her, asleep, taken from the window, from outside her bedroom. "Why didn't you show this to the cops?" I asked. I tried. They said it could have been an old photo, that there's no way to prove who took it. I stared at the image. It was recent. Her hair was different. New pajamas. A stack of books on the nightstand she'd just bought. There was no mistaking it. Someone had been at her window, watching, recording, waiting. That night I let her take the bed. I slept on the couch. I didn't trust her, but I didn't want her dead either. Around 3 a.m., I heard the back door rattle. Softly, once, then again. I got up, barefoot, heart hammering, baseball bat in hand. I crept through the kitchen, checked the back porch. Nothing. Then I saw it. A rose, fresh, laying across the welcome mat, wrapped in a note. "She used to smell like you. Now she just smells like fear." I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Neither did Erica. She found the rose when I showed her at sunrise. Her hands trembled as she held the note. "He was here," she whispered. I nodded. She looked up at me, panic swelling behind her eyes. "What if he never stops?" Later that day, Carl called. His voice was low, uneasy. I dug deeper, he said. "Your guy, Adrian? Real name like I told you, Adrian Whitmore. But it gets worse." "Worse how?" "He had a patient once, years ago. She was married too. They had an affair. When she broke it off, she ended up in a psych ward. Claimed he was stalking her. Police had no evidence. He disappeared before they could press charges. I didn't respond. Carl continued. And before that? Another case. Another woman. Another ruined marriage. He targets married women? I asked. Yeah, Carl said. It's a pattern. He likes taking something that belongs to someone else. But when it ends, he breaks. Like, really breaks. My grip tightened on the phone. So what now? I asked. Carl's voice went flat. Now you get her out of there. And watch your damn back. That night, I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the fireplace. Erica sat across from me, legs tucked under her, sweater pulled around her like armor. She looked like a stranger, but her eyes were full of something I'd never seen in her before. Regret. Tyler, she said softly, if anything happens to me, don't say that. You'll tell my parents I loved them? I sighed. Nothing's going to happen to you. She stared at the window. He's getting closer. I feel it. The next day, I booked us both a motel room under a fake name 3 towns away, just for a few nights. A place off-grid, somewhere no one would think to look. We packed light, just essentials. She clung to my side like a shadow, and I hated that part of me still responded to it. Still wanted to protect the same woman who ruined me. At the motel, I checked every corner twice. When I opened the closet door, I froze. Inside was a single piece of paper, taped to the wall. It read, "Nice try, Tyler." But she was mine the moment she said yes. For 2 days, we didn't leave the motel room. Erica barely spoke. She sat curled up in the corner chair, staring at the window like it might blink. I kept the lights low. Phone off. One hand always near the nightstand drawer where I'd stashed the pistol I never thought I'd need again. Every noise outside made us flinch. A door slamming. Tires squealing. A man coughing in the hallway. It was all him, or could have been. He was everywhere and nowhere. A ghost. A shadow she invited in. One I was now stuck trying to cast out. On the 3rd night, the power went out. Just like that. TV blinked off. AC stopped. A low hum of silence replaced everything. Erica sat up fast. Tyler? I'm here, I said, already crossing the room to the window. The hallway lights were still on. Just our room. Stay here, I whispered. No, don't go. I won't go far. I cracked the door open, peered into the corridor. Empty. But someone had passed this way. I could feel it. When I turned back, I found another note on the bathroom mirror. In thick black ink. You always thought you were the better man. But I'm the one she called when she was lonely. Erica saw it too. She started crying. A quiet, guttural sob like she was trying to break herself open and let the shame out. I did this, she whispered. I opened the door and let a monster in. You didn't know he was like this, I said. But I chose him, she said. I chose him over you, and now he won't let go. I called Carl. No answer. Called again. Nothing. 3rd time a voice finally picked up. But it wasn't Carl. It was a man. British accent. Slow. Mocking. Looking for your friend? He's a little tied up at the moment. My blood turned to ice. Adrian, I said. He chuckled. You finally say my name. I should feel honored. What do you want? Oh, it's never been about what I want, he said. It's about what I take. I looked at Erica, who was listening in terror. You lost, I told him. She left you. People like her don't leave people like me, he snapped. They orbit me, even when they think they've escaped. You're sick. He went quiet. Then he whispered. So are you, Tyler. Otherwise, you wouldn't have kept the journal. Or the photos. You loved her being broken. Don't lie. Click. The line went dead. That was the final crack in the glass. Something inside Erica shattered completely. She curled up in the bed, trembling. Kill me, she said. What? She looked at me with hollow eyes. You should have just killed me when you found out. It would have been easier than this. I knelt beside her, took her face in my hands. No, you don't get to take the easy way. You live through this. You face what you did. That's the only way forward. She broke down in my arms. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel rage. I felt something stranger. The next morning, the police called. Carl had been found, tied up but alive, in his office, knocked out cold, his files ransacked. Adrian had taken everything, notes, photos, names, but he hadn't taken the original copies I'd hidden in a storage locker 3 towns over. And he hadn't taken my resolve. I gave the police what I had. They opened a federal case. But by then Adrian was gone. Vanished. Like a storm passing through a quiet town and leaving only broken windows and blood in the rain. Erica disappeared after that. I helped her pack. She moved to a different state. New name. New apartment. Low profile. We didn't hug. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She knew better. The last thing she said was, "You didn't deserve what I did to you." And I said, "No. But I survived it anyway." Weeks passed. The sun started feeling warm again. I fixed up the porch. Cleaned out the bedroom. Began sleeping through the night. Sometimes I'd think of her. Not with hatred anymore. Just like a scar you forget you have until someone touches it. Then one morning, I found something in my mailbox. No return address. Inside, a single photograph. Erica, sitting on a bench outside what looked like a library, laughing. The photo had clearly been taken from across the street. Written on the back in that same sharp handwriting. "Don't worry, I'm still watching over her." I took the photo to the police. They traced the paper. It was custom stock, ordered from a shop in London. But no fingerprints, no traceable camera. Adrian had become a phantom again. And just like that, it all started over. Or so I thought. Until 2 weeks later, they found him. Dead. In a field outside Manchester. Burned car. No ID. Only dental records confirmed it was him. The police said it looked like suicide. But something didn't sit right with me. A man like Adrian doesn't go out that quietly. Then I remembered the journal. One line Erica had written. He once said if I ever left him, he'd disappear completely. Just to make sure no one else could have me. So maybe it wasn't suicide. Maybe it was the final move in a game he'd lost long ago. Either way, he was gone. And she was safe. And I was finally free. Not because she came back, but because I didn't need her to. In the end, the thing that saved me wasn't revenge. It was the choice not to let them ruin me. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real unexpected ending.